Rise and shine, it's a brand new day. Ken can take the stage, ready to play. Weekdays at 10, the cars in the scene. Coffee in hand, they're living the dream. Aggression in the voice, got the whole town awake. Bringing fire to the mic, make no mistake. Shows in the corner, spitting out facts. Dropping truth bombs, ain't holding back. Ken in the morning, feel the heat. From 10 a.m. CST, can take a seat. We live and love that break in the mind. Light up your speakers, crank up the sound. They're talking about life upside down. Opinions exploding like a sonic blast. In the studio, they're built to last. With passion and grit, they engage and ignite. Every single week, their foes can't fight. From sports to politics,
This is a Huddle Sports Network broadcast. You can find us on Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, Facebook, and of course YouTube. Get all your NFL news here first.
Hey, good morning. Welcome to another edition of Ken and Ken the Morning. Oh my God, both Kens are here today.
It's a freaking shocker.
I know, right? Like, whoa.
Yeah, and me in the temporary studio, but don't worry, soon we will have the real deal running. Schnizzle, we've got a show.
No, Schnizzle, we got a Ken. What's going on, dude?
I was going to say, don't mind the bare bones studio for now. It's just temporary.
Hey, man, you got at least you're back.
Yep.
So,
at least you got a home. I mean, the Bears still don't.
So, bro, I'm like, I know this is, somewhat, it's a football show, but on Friday, I got laughed out of my gym. I got laughed out of the building for saying that I thought Strickland was going to win. Everybody laughed me out of the building, dude. It's going to be a good day at the gym today, bro. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, I was going to get into the UFC thing here in a little bit.
I'm going to walk in, jab, teep, and smile.
I was going to get into that because really there's not much football news. I mean, the Bears signed a wide receiver. A lot of teams signed their UFDAs. Good morning, Yoli.
Hey there, Yoli.
Some rookie camps happen. And of course, the Bears stadium drama continues. It's just like Illinois is dumb. They set the bar so low. Well, then Brandon Johnson, like we talked last week, went down there to torpedo the deal because they have to be in Chicago. And learn from Indiana, right? Indiana politicians put their political parties aside, put their personal wants and desires aside for their, my district should have this, this city should have that. And said, look, this is good for the state, right? The state's going to, we put a stadium in Hammond. The Bears move there. We're going to generate billions in revenue. After the bonds are paid off for the stadium, the Bears can then buy the stadium for, ready for this price? $1. They're 40-year bonds. You can pay them off early, which if you're generating a shit ton of revenue, you probably do to save money, right? You pay the bonds off, and you buy the stadium for $1. And you want to, check this out. The Bears also in Indiana, if they take the Indiana deal, they get to keep 100% of the revenue from that stadium for whatever it's used for.
Good morning there, Rob.
So, Indiana, they're like, we're making this easy. Illinois, now they've added some Democrats in Chicago. I can't remember the person's name, but they're Democrat representative from Chicago. Added a bunch of language to the bill that jacks up all the taxes.
Of course they did.
Yeah, and that's the holdup right now. And really, they have until the end of the month. They have about 20 days left, and then they're out of session, and then it gets even worse. And the Bears, dude, you got to, it's like, dude, it's been 3 years. And I love people who are like, I blame the team for this. For what? They bought Arlington. They want to put a stadium in Illinois. They said, look, do the infrastructure. You know what's even more ironic? The infrastructure that needs to be done in Arlington Heights was already earmarked to be done before they even thought about building a stadium. Because they're doing their normal upgrades of sewer lines, water lines, power lines, roadways, all that crap. And already hosted, their Arlington International Racetrack, so we already had some of it there. And they're like, we're spending the money anyways in the Arlington area on infrastructure. I mean, it'll be a little bit more, but not, like hundreds of millions more. And we were already planning on doing this. And it's still the Illinois state government. I mean, they're like the Packers trying to find a kicker the last 2 years, or the Bears trying to find a kicker after the double doink. They just can't get their heads out of their ass long enough to look and say, oh, we've got a good deal here.
Well, they got to be like the Packers, get themselves a smack, and it's time to shit and get off the pot for both sides. It's either you're getting the deal done or you're moving on. I don't know how the hell Bear fans right now aren't bouncing their heads off the wall, because I can tell you, just being an outside observer of it, I'm ready to bounce my head off the freaking wall.
I look at the Chicago Sun-Times had an article today, and they think the Bears are going to Indiana at this point. They're like, why would they stay in Illinois with the stuff that's going on? I think the only reason they're taking this out as much as they have is, they want to be able to say we did our due diligence. We exhausted every option to stay here before they decide to leave. And you paid $138 million or whatever, $158 million for Arlington, and they're paying like $3 million a year right now in property tax on. Right? They have this huge site that they've been sitting on, couldn't do anything with for 3 years now. Right? So the state's made $9 million off empty land just sitting there because they can't develop it. And the Bears just put $100 million in the Hallis Hall, like in 2017, 2018, whatever it is. Okay. Whatever. So that's the thing. They're not paying. That's just idiocracy.
As a Raider fan, I'm just going to keep my mouth shut.
I know. That's just the idiocracy of the argument, though, because they're really not paying anything for a stadium like that, because of that. That, like, it's infrastructure is the only thing they're paying for. And, like, Arlington Heights is already going to do it. Right? So that piece of it, even the governor's like, they're already going to do it. I mean, everyone knows.
Hey, Ken, you ready for this? I think Rob knows that. I think he just wanted to. He saw an opportunity to get a dig in there.
I know. Let Robert.
But that one was kind of like. I mean, it was funny, but that's like a Strickland jab, not a Shemaev jab, dude.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Not a lot of power behind it, but it's just a little let you know.
That's like, hey, you beat us 2 out of 3 last year, knocked us out of the playoffs, and we haven't won a division since LaFleur and Love became starting combination. So I gotta get my digs in somewhere. My team can't get it done on the field, so
I wouldn't talk like that after one lucky year, man.
I'm just saying that's what it bleeds.
So am I.
And Shemaev goes down.
Back to the topic at hand, though. Like, look at. Even if I were to play into Rob's comment and be like, yeah, who cares? They're mediocre. That mediocrity still makes billions of dollars in revenue, right? Which is the bottom line here. The field play is irrelevant to this, in a sense, because it's the revenue generation that the stadium and the because look, it's more than just the Bears playing there. The Bears play, 8 to 9 regular season games and 2 preseason games there. What else does that thing, do? It generates concerts, WWE events, UFC events, monster truck rallies, Big Ten events, all kinds of political conventions, all kinds of other revenue would be generated there. And that site is so big in Arlington, it's more than just a stadium. It's a stadium plus shopping plus hotels plus maybe even a residential area.
Yes,
but you know what? Speaking of which, like, if so, at this White House card, if Ilya Topuria beats Justin Gaethje, he's going to go up. I think he's going to go up and chase Islam. I think they would have to do that in a stadium, dude. Usually the UFC does arenas, but they might go for a 60. They might go for a 60,000 seat stadium for that fight, dude.
That's what I'm saying. And it's like, and not only that, like the Bears are even saying, look, property values are going to go up in Arlington Heights, which means more money for schools. And that whole surrounding area where property values go up, that's more tax revenue generation for these schools in the northwest suburbs. So, I mean, There's so many positive things that go in putting a complex there, whether it's been 3 decades of mediocrity or 1 year, it doesn't make a difference. It's
But
the power that it has to generate
but
billions in revenue.
most of the time when we see these franchises move, it's they are doing it during their downturns, like we saw with the Rams and stuff like that. I think the Bears there kind of threw a monkey wrench into the whole thing by happen to be doing good this past year.
Well, you gotta remember, we bought Arlington Heights, we thought Justin Fields would get to start in his 3rd year there, and it never happened. And now, we're at a point where, okay, they could still end up winning. The Bears could go deep in the playoffs, maybe even make a Super Bowl before the new stadium even gets built. So, yeah, not the best timing, right? I mean, now the Chiefs, they did theirs, and the Bills have done theirs while they've been at the height of
Yeah, I was gonna say, to be fair though, with the Bills one, that's like a move down the street.
yeah,
In
well,
Kansas City, I'll give you that one because of moving states.
and they're moving across the state line. So, you know,
No, I'm in a temporary studio. You couldn't get that lucky,
that's
Fred.
great, Fred. So I mean, I just look at I figure we got about
Doing a
20
lot
more
better
days.
now, man.
We got about 20 more days of this foolishness. I mean, I'm resigned to the fact that Bears should just move to Indiana. Just move to Hammond, build it, be done. I would love, love, love it to be Arlington Heights. It makes things so much easier. Palace Hall is closer. It's right down the street. There's never gonna have to be moved there. Players in the team can still be in Lake County. Just get the stadium deal done, right? I mean, yeah, I agree with that, Robert. But the problem is the Bears aren't really asking them to foot a bill at all. The Bears are like, we're going to pay for the stadium. The state just needs to do what government does, right? Improve
I
infrastructure.
was gonna say, to be fair, I have heard back and forth on that, on if the Bears want the taxpayers to pay for the stadium and
No,
a certain percentage, and then I've heard that they don't. I've seen it from
zero
reputable. I've seen it from
in
reputable
Illinois.
sources both way. So
It's
I
always
don't
been
know.
zero. The team, McCaskey said, we're not asking the state to pay 1 penny for the stadium. They're asking for money for the infrastructure that needs to be improved in the area. That's all they've asked for, and the taxes. That's all they've asked for. Now, if they go to Indiana, yes, Ken, Indiana would be paying. The taxpayers would be paying to build part of the state. The Bears would still put $2 billion in, but then anything more, the state would pay.
What I don't get is, why don't the Bears call their bluff? Granted, I'm stretching the term a bit, but call their bluff with the infrastructure thing. Go and put your stadium there in Arlington anyway. And if they don't want to vote on the infrastructure, let it be an absolute freaking log jam there for traffic and all that shit, to where the people start putting pressure on the government to go and fund it or do something to it.
Well, here's the irony, Ken, is if the Bears were to build their new stadium where the city wants it, the infrastructure cost would be more to the state than if they put it in Arlington Heights.
See, this is exactly why I don't like politics, because we got to consist. Hey, what's up there, Eric? You got to consistently put all this extra bullshit into stuff, and everybody's got to sit there and wave their red flag, their blue flag, their freaking purple flag.
So, infrastructure is a product of government, right? The government's supposed to fix the roads, make sure the sewers are good, the water supply, all that kind of good stuff. Consider if they're already doing this stuff in Arlington Heights, and they're going to have to spend the money anyways. They're not really asking anything extra of the taxpayers. I think the big thing is the state of Illinois wants to be able to charge them $150 million a year in property tax for the state when the stadium's developed. And the Bears are like, that's stupid. Like, that's like insanely stupid, because even in LA they charge SoFi, they pay $9 million a year for SoFi in that complex. The Bears are like, we're cool with that, but $150 million? No, we're just not going to do it. We'll go
Eric,
somewhere
our regular
else.
shows will resume as normal. I am fully back, man.
So I mean, I just want this thing to be done and over with, so then we can fight about the Packers and their naming rights, because I think that's a funny situation. And really, dude, the transition to the Packers and their issue with the stadium naming rights. Ken, look. My take is so simple. I don't care if it's State Farm buys the naming rights because you know what? It'll just be Lambeau Field presented by State Farm. No one's going to call it State Farm Field. It'll still be Lambeau.
Believe me, I get that, but the purist in me doesn't want anything else up there but Lambeau Field. Now, I can concede it and meet in the middle with the Lambeau Field brought to you by freaking grandma's asshole.
That's what they did to Soldier Field when Capital One bought the naming rights. So Soldier Field brought to you by Capital One. Hey, tell me real quick, where does Kansas City play their games currently?
I don't know.
But it's not called Arrowhead.
Exactly. It's Gaha Field or whatever. Everyone still calls it Arrowhead. I mean, yeah, Fred, you can't.
Unfortunately, you got zoning and codes and all that.
Zoning. Well, no, the zoning for the that's not the problem. The problem's the tax. That's the problem.
Well, you got to get your permits to build and all that shit.
They'll get that. The state has nothing to do with that. That's all the municipality. They'll green light that. They're ready to green light that.
Not if the state tells them that you better not, or otherwise we'll cut off your local funding.
Look at that. Fred's like, why not just tell them? Ruby Ridge in Arlington Heights. That's yeah. I mean, dude, if you're an Illinois politician too, like if you're the fat man, you don't want to be the governor who lost the Bears. And right now, your political allies like Brandon Johnson aren't doing you any favors. Look, and you know what the sad part is, dude? The Bears have been trying to get this done for 3 years, and the state kept saying,
Fred, I'd be very careful about saying that.
Fred just got put on a watch list.
Fred's already been on a watch list. He just got a star next to his name.
The state of Illinois for 3 years, it's not that important. We're not going to even talk about a stadium. They've been pushing it off for 3 years until the Bears finally got fed up and said, you know what, we're going to explore going to Indiana. And now all of a sudden there's movement. For 3 years, the state of Illinois could have given a rat's ass and basically told the Bears, pound sand, we're not even going to talk about it. Great, you bought this property, you want a new stadium, we don't care. We're not even going to talk about it. The Bears could say, hey, we want to build. They're like, yeah, we don't care. And now all of a sudden they care because Indiana came up with a package, super quick. And once again, kudos to the Indiana state government for putting their political parties aside and realizing, hey, this is something that could benefit all of us. We may not all get what we want the way we want it, but we're all still going to benefit, and let's do something. Whereas the state of Illinois, even with that done, still can't get their heads out their asses, and they're still fighting about, dude, give them the tax break. You're going to spend the money on
what happens when you let politics take rule over everything? Common sense would go a long freaking way with this shit. You got to stop being so freaking tied to the party lines type of shit.
I mean, and I get why the Bears don't want to be in the city. I mean, look, the city wants to basically exert control over them and own the stadium and charge them rent and all that good stuff. The Bears are like, dude, I'm tired of paying rent. I want to, it's like, hey, I want to buy my own house, but my landlord in my current apartment says, no, not unless I own the house and then you rent it from me. And it's like, no, I have the wherewithal to buy my own place, so I want to do it. And the city's like, no, you're not allowed. You have to rent from us. Why? Oh, because you're in Chicago and your team name is the Chicago Bears. That doesn't mean I have to rent from the city council. Why can't I own my own property and own my own building and use only the state of Illinois can take a cash cow and say, give it to another state.
Well, it's not only Illinois, because Oakland did the same thing.
Oakland did the same thing. Yeah, and now they've lost. And I know there's consternation because the A's got involved and all that, but now look, they've lost both the A's and the Raiders. And Kansas City lost the Chiefs. So, the state of Missouri lost the Chiefs to Kansas.
Fred, I am 1,000% with you. I think the whole thing is they didn't grease the right palms yet. Somebody didn't get their kickback, and now they're.
Dude, I said this last week. I said a lot of these problems could be solved with a suitcase full of cash.
You better believe it, because we all know that's how politics works in this country.
And,
You just got to find which palms to grease and
if
make
the
sure you
Bears,
get those slippery.
if the Bears move to Indiana, I just wonder how long it takes for them to close up Hallis Hall and build new facilities in Indiana to go with the stadium. And we're going to find this all out pretty soon. I mean, like I said, by the end of the month, we should hopefully have an answer. I know we've said this before, but now even the NFL and Roger Goodell, like, dude, you guys need to pick a lane. And I think it's coming to a loggerhead. So hopefully they do. And look at wherever the stadium goes, it's a cash cow. It's concerts, it's political rallies, it's UFC events eventually, it's WWE WrestleMania, it's Big Ten championship football, Big Ten championship basketball, whatever else they can throw in there, they'll throw in there and generate revenue. Taylor Swift concert, Metallica concert, it's whatever else they want to throw in there, Comic Cons, expos, you name it, right? They will make money there, and whether it be in Arlington or in Hammond, doesn't matter. It's still going to generate tons of revenue. And look, even if they move over, even if they move to Hammond, you're still going to get Illinois is still going to make money on tolls from the people coming over the Sky Bridge and all that kind of crap, but they're going to make markedly less money than if they stay in Arlington. So, that's the only real thing going on in the NFL right now. I mean, the UFDA's, a couple will make rosters that got signed. The bigger thing was was UFC on Saturday. I actually watched it. The Strickland fight, okay, but the other fight, the
Co-main, the Joshua Van fight.
Yeah,
that was a fight.
Yeah, it was a great fight. The Strickland Chimaev fight is more. It was more of a fight for like purists, like you really have to like know what you're watching to appreciate it.
I was just talking to my buddy about this earlier today because
I was gonna say, let's hit the Van fight first, then talk Strickland. So
okay.
The order of the card, right? I mean, and some of the fights underneath even the Van fight were pretty good. Some were just kind of like, really, that like the hype didn't match the fight. That always happens. There's always at least one where some guy just gets like easy first round victory. But that Van fight, the way it started, and he got him down super. Van was on his back super quick. And while they were dry, no sweat to wiggle out of anything. So the guy had full grip, skin to skin. And it was funny though, because while Van's there and he's butterflying himself, and they're wasting energy, but Van almost felt like he was taking a nap. Like, did you see you looked at his face, and it was just like, fine, dude, you can try, whatever.
Yeah, because you're sitting there letting the other guy gas out.
And he was just kind of like, almost like he was going to take a nap. I mean, obviously he was putting work in to maintain position and whatnot, but it was like, and then that kid, man, he took that first time he knocked him down, I thought he was out.
So didn't I. I thought that right there was the end of it.
Van said in the interview post-show, because I thought he was out, but then I probably woke him up when I started to hit him again. You might be right. But man, that kid from Japan, I can't remember his name right now.
Taira.
Dude, that dude.
Brad, I highly suggest going back on Paramount and watching at least the co-main and main. They were outstanding.
I mean, when they stopped the fight, the kid was like, dude. But even I was like, no, he was going to get hurt pretty bad if they didn't stop it. I mean, he was already phased pretty damn bad. You could see it all over his face, but. Man, that first co-main fight.
How are we going to say Van is a hell of a rising star? This past year, this kid's been on one hell of a freaking tear. And he ended up being unfortunate enough to win his belt because the other guy breaking his arm doing rookie type of shit. But this definitely helped legitimize him to where you're no longer going to be hearing people, well, you wouldn't be champion if this, that, and the other. Granted, you're still going to have some of the haters because of he didn't beat the guy for the belt, but he showed he deserves to be there with this performance.
I mean, look, he looked like what Jordan Love. Because I talk some football. He was calm under pressure, like Jordan throwing the ball short in the playoff game. That's
Oh my God! Did you watch it with Stevie Wonder's glasses?
no. I watched him with Rob. Um, but no, I mean,
Haspel's glasses, man. No wonder why you couldn't see it.
no, Cortana, But no, I mean, the kid was calm and cool, and it was just a good fight. That was a good fight.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those fights where Tyra's stock rises even because people see he's a tough son of a bitch,
Mhm.
and that kid's gonna, he's got a bright future. But the only thing I worry about is him taking that much damage. Like he lost some of his career in the ring the other night.
Yeah, he's definitely going to have a longer break between fights.
I don't just
No.
mean that. I mean the physical toll. Like,
Well,
you
yeah.
have you have the CTE punch count, dude. Like, there's a certain number of punches that you're allowed to take before you're to a Taivagaloa. Like, and he let's just say, his tally went up significantly the other night. So
Well, I mean, look, but that's what I'm saying though. Like the CTE punch count went up some, but also like you have this, you need to
Yep.
capitalize right on what you just did. He can't really capitalize on it because he's not going to get in the ring in 3 months. Like he's going to need a longer break. So it's going to be hard. By the time he gets back in the ring, that steam he just generated has dissipated. Whereas Van came through pretty good. He can, I mean, well, he's got the belt that helps too. But he's going to be able to hit the ring much faster and get into a fight much faster and capitalize on the momentum he generated on Saturday. Whereas now his opponent, kind of has to wait a little bit more. And it's kind of like now when we go into the
Yeah.
Strickland fight, like Strickland's like, I'll get back in the ring tomorrow. But even though my face got pummeled, it was funny in the voice interview. He's like, oh my God, look at my face. He'll be back in the ring. And that dude, you tell him, hey, you want to be back in the ring in 30 days? He probably would. I mean, the guy likes to fight a lot, but I mean, dude, that Japanese kid, man, he's got to take time off. I mean, his bell got rung for sure. He's gonna have to take some time off and let the brain rest and the body heal. And
But the fans will remember. Like that's the thing about when you have a fight like that and your stock rises, unless he's forced to take 2 years off, like
Right.
the fans are not going to forget about him. They're gonna his next fight. I expect he'll have a significantly larger fan base just
Oh, yeah.
because of his heart. But you're absolutely right. He's not gonna be back in the ring in 3 months, and nor should he. Like, take the time, let your brain heal up. Like, when you get beat that bad, you gotta let your brain heal up. Otherwise, you're just opening yourself up for like Tua. Like, you get one concussion, next thing you know, it's like that next hit is every hit after that is a concussion. Like,
I'll tell you what, if there were the NFL after that first knockdown, right? He would have been in the blue tent.
oh yeah,
Because
There's no blue tent in UFC.
I'm saying though, if it were the NFL, he would have been in the blue tent. They would have been like,
Mhm.
stop, off to the blue tent, because he just got rocked.
yeah.
The only thing I think where Van made a mistake was going for the submission. Like, okay, guy, you want to prove a point, but that's just how much he dominated that fight. He went for the submission. He didn't get it. He wasted time. Kind of let the kid back into it a little bit. But I mean, he's like, I'm that much in control. Like, he knew I'm in that much of the driver's seat. I have the capital to try to run the submission route, because I get that, the kid's like, his opponent's like, I love getting people in weird submissions, and he does, right? But for him to try to flip the table to get a submission, like, okay. But then he realized, okay, I go back to my bread and butter, and that he ends up putting them down. That was a great fight.
He also got out of a fully locked triangle,
Yeah, he did.
and that's the thing is, like, Tyra had him in a fully locked triangle, but Van was still standing, like, bent over. Like, if Tyra would have just grabbed that ankle, like, while he had that triangle, if he would have just reached over and grabbed that left ankle with his right hand and pulled that ankle, it would have been over. But he just, in the moment, he didn't, and Van got out. But
Now the Strickland fight. Well, before we even talk about the actual fight, I think it was great that the hype coming in, how much they hate each other, and then they're tapping gloves not once but twice pre-fight. They tapped every round, and then afterwards they're like all huggy kissy best friends. And I like Strickland's replies like, look, I do this for you guys. I do the hype thing for you guys. Like, no, we don't really hate each other. You know, I thought that was cool.
They do really hate each other, but they also have a very profound respect for each
Yeah,
other. You
yeah.
got to remember too that these guys were teammates for a little while.
Yeah.
And that's where the beef grew out of. But like Strickland said, when you sit there and bury your soul like that and go to that kind of a war with somebody, it's hard not to give the man his respect.
and like I definitely think Strickland put some extra chili on the dog. You know what I mean? Like with the whole beef thing, like, but there was some bad blood there, but I think they worked it out like in the cage. And
Oh, that's
honestly, what really impressed me was Shemaev putting the belt on Strickland in that close of a fight. Like,
Yeah.
I've seen it happen before.
Well-
Shemaev isn't the first person to do it. Anthony Rumble Johnson put the belt on DC. Like, there's been instances where it happened before, but not in a grudge match like this, and especially on a split decision. Like, Shemaev could have reacted any number of ways to that decision.
I think Shemaev doing that though solidified the decision, and here's why. Shemaev knew Strickland beat him. He knew. And so when the decision went down, he knew right in that split moment, there could have been tons of controversy had he not done that. When he did that, it kills all controversy because to people it says, look, even he knew. Because, and the reason I think the decision was correct, who had to change their game plan and not do their thing? Strickland forced Shemaev to give up completely on trying to take him down.
Mhm.
He pretty much made him abandon his game plan, and he made him
Fight his fight.
his fight. Strickland forced him. I mean, actually, I don't even think it should have been that close. I think he should have won unanimously. His strikes were better overall. You know, and then look at the second. Was it the second round where even Strickland took him? You know, had him down for all that time. But Strickland made him abandon his even trying to take him down, and made him make it a boxing match in a lot of regards. And he didn't even kick him until like what, midway through the fifth was the first kick by Strickland. I mean, Strickland literally did nothing but punch the dude, and he landed a lot of more. You know, obviously a lot more. I mean, was it second all time in UFC history? Right, the amount of significant punches landed, I think, was the graphic they showed. I mean, you win, yeah, the punch count and the takedown count, get it. But the other factor is who imposed their will of how the fight would be fought. Strickland imposed his will the entire fight.
I was gonna say I wouldn't say the entire fight because I gave Hazmat 2 rounds and I gave Strickland 3. But I definitely agree with the unanimous decision aspect of it. But I can also see why it was split too.
See, I disagree. I think the split decision was fair. Like that fight was a lot closer than a unanimous decision. Like Strickland did definitely outland Shemaev, but in the middle rounds, one of the things that really surprised me is that Shemaev landed the much harder strikes. And even though he landed a lot less, his strikes were more significant. And the fact that that's Strickland's game, is that the stand-up boxing game. And Shemaev went into his world and, you know, held his own with him in that world. I felt like I was nervous when they were announcing that decision. I thought Sean did enough to win. But I was like, if they give it to Shemaev, you can't really be mad. Like, you can't call it a robbery. Like that was
I don't think I would have been mad or called it a robbery. I would have been a little disappointed because, like I said, for me, I look at like I get it. I agree with what you're saying, but you imposed your will on your opponent in terms of how it was going to be fought. Now,
right.
look,
and that's what I'm saying is I felt like Sean did enough, but you can when it goes to the cards, you can never tell, man. The judges see what they see.
had knocked him down, punching him, then it's like, dude, Strickland, you have no reason, you you have no say, right? I'm like, you impose your will on how to fight, and the guy beat you at your own game. That didn't happen though. Like Shemaiah didn't beat him at his own game. Yes, I agree, Joe. He held his own. Yes, some of his punches were damage-wise more significant, right? I mean, look at his face. Um, but I mean, I agree with the split decision, but I think it should have been unanimous at 10 at basically with like 3-2. Like I think
Mhm.
Shemaiah legitimately won 2 rounds. Uh, the fifth, the last round should have been straight across the board for Strickland. I mean, it made for better drama that it wasn't right, and it really solidified what a good fight it was overall. But I think Shemaiah putting the belt on him also signified even Shemaiah knew that Strickland was better that day, and also did a lot to bury a lot of the bad blood stuff and everything else that went pre-fight, and
Hmm.
kind of like took the temperature down
Well,
a ton.
there's more to it. Like Shemaev putting the belt on him also was significant because Shemaev immediately went to the back and told Dana that he's done at 185, that
Yeah.
he's moving up to 205. So he's
Yeah.
basically passing the torch to Strickland for
Right.
the division, and
Mhm.
so that's it.
Which
And
I can.
Shemaev's face was. Did you see Shemaev's face?
Oh
Like
yeah,
his face
he's
was
lit
pretty
up too.
busted up too. Like
But I can.
anybody who says Strickland's jab power, go look at Shemaev's face, man. Like you get peppered with
But
150 jabs, like
I
you know.
can definitely agree with Hazmat going up in weight class because he didn't have the usual gas tank that we see out of him this time. That first round, it was the usual Hamazat that we're used to seeing, just dragging the dude down and doing what he wants to him at will, and then you could just see the gas tank go after that.
But yeah,
Yeah,
but
I think he
there's
kind of burned
reasons for
himself
that.
out.
First of all, I don't know if you guys knew this, but Hamzat cut 45 pounds
Yeah,
for this fight.
yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize it was that much. I knew he
I
cut a
think
decent amount, but holy
I think
shit.
Hamzat's tactical plan really was to try to get it done in the first round, and you could tell he put everything in that first round because he knew that if this thing went the distance, right? If it went five, all five, that he might be in trouble because he had to cut so much weight.
Hmm.
Conditioning probably wasn't where he wanted to be. So, he put it all on the line off the jump to
And
try
man, Sean Strickland's choke defense is fucking phenomenal, dude.
I thought he was out like 2 or 3 different times in that first round.
Like Sean Strickland, his dude. Like me and Ken have talked about this. Like his takedown defense is fantastic, but he showed even on the ground like his choke defense because a lesser fighter would have been out of there, dude. Like and Hamzat showed it. Like anytime he gets you in that position, he's an excellent, one of the best finishers in the game. So the fact that that Strickland was able to ride that out, and interesting at the end of that first round when they went to their corners, right? Strickland's corner was telling him, dude, excellent. Like that was the best first round we could have hoped for. Now people might be like, that's the best first round you could have hoped for. He got your ass whooped, like you got dominated the whole first round. No, they took the best, and this is what his corner meant, is they took the best Hamzat had to. He was never going to be fresher than he was in that first round, and he couldn't finish him. It was the best case scenario for them.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, in that second round, another thing that hasn't really gotten mentioned is around the halfway mark in the second round, Strickland caught Shemaev with a shot that hurt him, and like his legs, he did a little stanky leg, and then he shot immediately for a takedown, and Strickland was able to push him down onto his because he was stunned, like he was stunned by a shot that Strickland threw.
He got stunned.
Yeah, but that's when tried to pull guard, right?
Yeah.
It's because he was stunned, and Strickland took advantage. But
I think it caught Strickland off guard because there's like you saw him fall down and go into guard. You're like, and Strickland kind of looked down on him, and he then eventually pounces. But it took him it took him a little bit to process. He's like, it was almost like he was shocked. He was looking like, why is he sitting in the guard? Well, he's still sitting there. Fuck it, let's go. But I mean, like, it wasn't immediate. It was delayed. And I
Yeah,
think
and see, I didn't see the shot right away. I only saw it after the fight. But what I thought in that immediate moment was that Shemaev was trying to bait him. I thought he was like, because you'll see fighters pull guard like that
Mhm.
sometimes and try to be like, come on, like come into my world, because I felt like Shemaev was trying to bait him into his guard so he could try to create a scramble and get a better position. But no, he was just gassed or just hurt.
and
But
Strickland acquainted himself really well when he did go down to the mat.
mhm,
Took bait, took whatever you want, however you want. Okay, he acquainted himself. I mean, he won the round. Um,
mhm. And
I think though he gassed himself a little bit though too, but he didn't overly gas himself. But I think in a weird way, it let Hamzat get back in the fight. It did recharge his gas tank, I think, a little bit. Yeah, he expended energy defending there, but he looked better coming into the third then.
Hamzat
Um,
definitely got a second wind in that
yeah,
third round, and it carried him through the rest of the fight. But in the fifth round, they were both exhausted, dude. You could see it. Like those were labored punches they were throwing. Even Strickland, that's what I was really like.
Mhm.
Is Strickland has an amazing gas tank. Strickland never gasses. So the fact that he was tired tells you like how grueling that fight really was, dude. Like
and,
you
and
didn't see a lot of blood, but you did see like those guys gave everything. And
so
one tactical thing I wanted to point out that I so Strickland, you mentioned that Strickland did a good job of forcing Shemaev to fight his fight, right? And
yeah,
so I wanted to get into a technical aspect of how he was able to do that. If you go back and watch that fight, watch Strickland's feet for that whole every time. So Strickland was backing up because Hamzat is walking him down, right? But every time his feet would get within about a foot and a half of the black line, he would immediately pivot and he would turn and take the center of the octagon again. And that's strategy, because that black line, once your feet get past that black line, you're in danger of Hamzat being able to push him into the cage and start working the takedowns. So Strickland, if you watch, he did whatever he could to stay off that black line the whole fight, dude. And that really, like, that was a very tactical move on his part.
oh, very technically
For
sound.
Hamzat to shoot a takedown, now he's going to have to shoot halfway across the octagon to put him
Yeah.
into the cage, like instead of right there. If he's already behind the black line, it's 4 or 5 feet to the fence.
No, I mean
So
tactically, it was a great fight by him. It was a great event. There was no presidential signing. We all figured that maybe the president, who was in Philly, would show up. He didn't, but I think he'll be at the next fight because I don't know.
I'd happen to
Get it
guess
out.
so.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta love it. It's like, you know what? I want to go to a fight, but I want to travel. Why don't we just put it in my front yard?
I was gonna say you want to talk about a hell of a banner card for the White House. This event, Freedom 250, is going to be outstanding the whole way up. I can't wait to freaking see Josh Hokit go back out there, and Joe knows I absolutely cannot wait to see Ilya demolish Justin Gaethje.
When's the Rousey?
next week, Saturday.
Yeah, see, I think they wasted that. They should have saved that for 250 as well.
They're
No,
not part of
Rousey-
UFC.
Yeah, they're not part of UFC. They're doing a different promotion.
Oh,
They're
that's all
actually Ronda's shitting on the UFC right now.
Okay,
Mhm.
She's talking mad shit. But on that card, I don't know if you guys knew this, but Rousey Carano is not the fight I'm watching that card for. I'm watching Nate Diaz and Mike Perry. That fight is on that card.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
forgot that
from
you
a
had mentioned Nate
commercial-
Diaz was going to be fighting.
UFC's missing out on that one because from a commercial standpoint, if you had that fight at the White House lawn, that would have been
10 years ago, yes. Now-
No, because the average fan, look at everyone knows the thing with Carano and Star Wars and Disney, blah 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 blah, and people rouse you with going to the WWE and all that good stuff. Blah, blah. Commercially, it would have been a commercial success for the UFC. On top, it would have added more value. I think would brought even more people in to the Freedom 250 card.
As a sure, but in rank wise or like in current like
Right.
current
And, you know,
status wise, no.
I get all that, but sometimes you do stuff like that, regardless
Honestly,
of
what it reminds me of is like it reminds me of TNA wrestling, right? Like taking all the stars from the Attitude Era
I mean,
and like trying to put them back out there.
if
What it
that ends
reminds me of.
if that ends up being a good fight, though, who cares?
Yeah, no,
Oh
it
yeah,
should be a
it
good
has
fight,
to be.
especially because Ronda's juiced to the gills, dude. Like, no, dude, have you seen like look at her upper shoulder, look at her upper chest and shoulder area? Like, Ronda is juiced for this fight, bro. Like, trust me, she is. She is.
And
Her
that's another
neck,
reason
like,
why this fight isn't happening under UFC promotion.
yeah,
Oh,
because
and also,
they
by the
wouldn't get
way, in
past the
case
testing.
y'all missed it, there was a WWE pay-per-view that was before the UFC fights this weekend. Um, that was interesting too. I got a new IPTV. I'm waiting to get I'll get a link out to everyone as soon as I get a referral link. Um, so it's much easier for me to kind of see when these things are now. So I watched it. I don't watch WWE much. I watch LFG not because it's wrestling, just because I like watching the process. You know, the thing about LFG was like the process of these guys getting the contract and that little competition, and that's why I got into LFG. And I like watching the WWE Greatest Moments little show they do, and some of the bio stuff they do, because I find the behind the scenes and the
I was gonna say the bios I actually like because I don't care too much about wrestling now, but the
yeah,
wrestling from the late 80s,
well, the
90s, and
Attitude
early
Era,
thousands,
that was
yeah,
up.
that
Watch,
that's what I'm interested in, like the Dark Side of the Ring, Tales from the Territories, those
I mean,
type
Yeah.
of
because like
shows. Love them.
when I was on active duty and you did motor pool Monday and you're in the motor pool on Tuesday, and then you go to the Tuesday, you go back to work, and if you didn't watch Raw or WCW Monday night, and trust me, we were going between both. You were down the motor pool and you were just sitting in the corner like no one wants to talk to me because you didn't watch wrestling. So I mean, when I was a kid, I remember WrestleMania 1 and all that kind of good stuff, and Hulk Hogan against Andre the Giant, all that kind of stuff, Bobby the Brain Heenan, and all that stuff, and then the Attitude Era, so to speak, the '90s stuff, and then I kind of fell out of watching after a while, like everyone else kind of does, or a lot of people do, kind of,
Yeah,
and I wasn't as much into it, and then so I like watching like the history stuff, like the greatest moment stuff is fun to watch, the bio stuff, and I got an LFG because it's about the process. Right, and then there was the other one they do on Netflix. They've had two runs of it right now, where it's like the behind the scenes of how they like do the programming, the storylines, and even Paul Heyman had the best quotes. Like, this is the part I really hate about this show, is I'm taking you behind a curtain, and my job is to make sure you never see behind the curtain, and I love that though. I love that piece of it. And I love watching that stuff, but and LFG has been fun to watch because it's the process, right? It's these young kids going through the process to get into the game, get a contract, and you see what they're going through the coaching and the judging and all that good stuff. This season of LFG is a little bit different. It's not as good for me in that term because it's more like, okay, they're going to wrestle and someone's going to get promoted to AAA or get an NXT contract. They're missing the coaching and competition aspect of it for their third season, which I'm not happy about. So I watched, and because I could watch for free, I watched the pay-per-view, and it was, it was okay. It was
WWE is in trouble, man.
oh, massively.
storylines were
They're
kind of
hemorrhaging talent right now. Like Kofi Kingston just left, New Day. Like they're hemorrhaging talent right now because they want them all to take pay cuts, and like I don't understand it because they just got bought out by the Saudi group like for billions of dollars.
Well, I think
It's
part of
not.
it, though, is the international travel piece because now they're going to Saudi Arabia, they're doing more stuff in Europe and Australia, they're doing more international travel, and then they want to make less money. I get it. Okay, your costs went up because you have to move the whole production to Saudi Arabia for a week, and then you got to move it to the UAE, and then you got to move it to France and England, and I get it, but that's not like talent. I'm sorry, talent shouldn't take a pay cut. And to
Mhm.
me, like watching this pay per view, even the main event to me was just kind of it didn't sell. It just
Mm-hmm.
didn't sell. And
Oh, the storylines have been terrible. That's why after the Ruthless Aggression era, I fell out of it because they went back to the old school PG era of wrestling, and it was just more like a clown show than like in the '90s there when it felt more like
More real.
you, yeah, where it felt like you were watching almost like a regular TV show type of thing, just with wrestling involved.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, it just wasn't. It didn't sell. It didn't sell. So that was disappointing. Then I got to watch UFC, which was much better entertainment wise and sold better. Um, but yeah, it just I did a WWE live event when Rhodes came back and did his road to the WrestleMania because we had free tickets here in Pensacola, um, and that was fun to go to the live, and see how that's all done. But I'm still not going to be watching WWE on. I'm watching Raw tonight. I'm not watching
Mm,
SmackDown. I'm not watching. I think
yeah.
if I catch a pay per view, I'll watch a pay per view if I have nothing else to do. But I've been watching LFG, so it kind of piqued my interest a little bit. Now maybe I think LFG is good for them for another thing because you get people's interest peaked in these kids early now in LFG, watching them in the competition. Drake Moreau finally got, he went to AAA. His contract was up. Shawn Michaels pulled him in. Everyone thought he was going to be released. No, you're going to go to AAA with Undertaker. Like, okay, so now you've got some emotional investment in this kid from watching him in LFG for 2 seasons. And some of these other guys you watch on LFG, and I think they're hoping to capture fans who watch them in LFG and then watch them go to NXT or AAA and then watch them get called up to the main roster and have emotional attachment to these guys because you've watched them come up from jump, right? And I think that's what they're somewhat trying to do. But the problem is the payoff on that's going to take 2-3 years
Mhm.
for the most part. They're not going to rush these guys to the WWE, right? They're going to let them. They're going to go hit
I was
NXT.
gonna say, don't worry, they'll kill that off with some type of storyline that absolutely makes no sense. And,
Yeah, and
and
see that's the thing is like they could take a page out of the Ultimate Fighter book, right? Because the Ultimate Fighter, the winner of the show, got a 6-figure contract, and when it went, they didn't go to AAA. They went straight into the UFC, and it was sink or swim, like that. You didn't have time to forget about the guy, or you didn't have to follow this long emotional
Well, I
journey.
mean, I think
that's how they
NXT.
used to do it with the Tough Enough series, but that kind of fizzled out real quick.
I think though NXT's got a pretty good fan base right now, and in some ways might be better. The storylines and the fan base in NXT right now might be in some ways superseding the Big Show. And if they can capitalize on that and get these guys up, they can revitalize the main roster. Right now, like watching this pay per view, the Rollins fight was fun. I like watching him because he's a Bears fan, whatever. But I mean, the storylines were just kind of blase. Where with NXT now they can run in some LFG storylines from the competition, make it more real again, um, and maybe draw. And NXT seems to do really pretty well for what it's supposed to be doing. If they don't rush it and they can keep building upon it, which I think is why they've changed LFG to kind of put more fuel in that NXT fire and AAA fire, and then it can maybe bring up the main roster. But yeah, it's not like I'm gonna go start watching AEW because I'm not that much into wrestling anymore. But I was like, okay, cool. I could, LFG's kind of I like watching the behind the scenes and the inner workings of the organization and how they work it and how they craft talent. And if it's a good storyline, it's a good storyline. You're still gonna be entertained because you can watch some of these LFG fights and you can be entertained by them and engrossed by it. And some are like, yeah, you can tell they're still learning. The problem is, I think, like with the pay per view, to me, the storylines, none of them pulled me in this weekend. Like
Hmm.
almost none of them pulled me in. And the fights were just kind of like telegraphed.
That's the issue because what it is the backlash from the Attitude Era of how much that pushed the envelope. Now they're too afraid to offend anybody, so they're playing it super safe with these storylines. And it's you didn't already learn from the 80s and very early 90s that nobody cares about that type of crap anymore.
Yeah, the cartoon character storylines,
Mhm.
like
Let's do
good
an
guy
all
versus bad
Chicago
guy.
match. Let's do an all Chicago match. Let's get CM Punk from Chicago against the biggest Bears fan in the WWE with their spouses who are both wrestlers. Granted, one has an advantage with having the man as a wife. That's always funny when you say it that way. Like, do something like that. That'd be fun. Like Battle for Chicago as a pay per view, and they could do it. They'll do it in
It
Chicago.
would be a lot more fun for me if I cared about either of those two wrestlers because I
I know, but
personally don't like either of
I
them.
mean, dude, Chicago's a major market, and you make
Oh
a
no,
lot
no,
of
no!
major
I get what you're saying. It just totally misses the mark with me just because I'm not a fan of either of those guys.
Well, like, is it like I wish it's too bad there's not a wrestler that's like a big Packers fan that I know of that you could do a whole Packers Bears thing and do a crossover kind of. It's not really a crossover, but it's a crossover, right? I mean, do something like that, like make
See,
it.
what you're talking about is like 90s style
Yeah,
storylines
it'd be
where
so much better.
where we're taking that line in between and we're blurring it. The problem right now is these guys are too hard set of, oh, that's just my character. No, give me a Macho
Everyone
Man,
knows
the
he's a
guy
Bears
that can't tell the difference between his character and himself.
dude. Everyone knows he's a Bears fan. I mean, come on, he's at the NFL draft proclaiming it. His wife came out in Bears gear when they were in Wisconsin. I mean, come on, like they can let some of it bleed over in their character, but yeah, I know. It's just right now, like those fights were like, they were a good fluffer for the UFC fight on Saturday. That's what they were. I got you ready to watch real fights on Saturday night. I mean, but dude, tell me I'm wrong. But WWE got you ready for UFC.
Oh my god, that hit the nail so far on the head. I think you put the nail out the backside of the hammer.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what though. Going full circle, 'cause we're almost out of time. Going full circle on this, it's funny 'cause we started out talking about the Bears thing with the stadium, and that was like fluffer for the WWE fights, which was fluffer for the UFC. And the only thing difference between the Bears and the state of Illinois with it's reading like a WWE storyline. It really is. It really is, and it's going to be deflating when it ends.
Yeah, it would be a lot better if they would just have The Rock come out and rock bottom Pritzker, dude.
Now make him fight the McCaskies. Steel cage.
Like look at everyone knows the Miz is a big Browns fan. Like, I don't know, get something going, do something. They always show like everyone knows Kittle's a huge WWE fan. I mean, he's still playing, but they need to start getting some more crossover stuff with the NFL because that works for them every time they do it. Maybe that's maybe
I was gonna say, look how crazy the reception was for LT when he was at WrestleMania.
They're looking, and they had football players in the stadium in Tampa, and they also had the Tampa Bay Lightning were there. They're just not capitalizing enough. That's all. It's just really bad. I feel bad for Triple H because the dude's brilliant, but I think his hands are being held a little bit behind his back. Shawn Michaels is doing great in Orlando with generating talent. They're just not getting the storylines right now, and yeah. So I don't know.
Everybody wants to be everybody's friend backstage. Start pissing some people off. Create some heat.
Yeah. So I mean, the Bears have definitely done that with the state of Illinois right now. Jesus Christ. Maybe we'll get some resolution on that in the next 20 days. We better. I'm getting tired of it. Nothing much out of rookie minicaps. Maybe we'll get some more football stuff. Some minor signings this week. We'll talk about some of them later in the week, but that time of year, boys.
Yep.
Get Isaac ready. We're going to talk jock tax for a day.
Oh God. Haven't I been through enough?
Somewhere Isaac just perked up. But with that, we're out of time. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Enjoy your Tuesday. The weather's getting great. Go hit the pool, hit the beach, do whatever you're going to do. Have a great day, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Have a good one, everyone.